So a common question that we've been getting asked to talk about is safety on the job. And unfortunately, this is becoming a much larger issue in the lock and key industry today. So, Dad, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
And talking about this. This is a interesting subject. I think it's a subject that there's not one answer fits all.
Right.
At the same time, it's of course very important to
Absolutely
stay safe on the job, right?
Oh, yes.
And so I figured you'd be a great person to talk to about this. I'm hoping to interview quite a few different people about this and try to get a bunch of ideas kind of going on.
Right.
I'm also fortunate that when I was locksmithing, I never had any problems.
Well, because we live in an area where you don't have problems.
Yeah, so that was nice. But so if we can kind of start off, so you've been, for anyone who doesn't know you or not familiar with you, how many years have you been locksmithing?
Since 1980, so what, almost 43 years?
For 3 years. And have you ran into safety issues, your personal safety issues?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Kind of talk to us a little bit about that. Can you give us a few examples?
Somebody called me up in the evening and said, oh, they locked their keys in the trunk of their vehicle.
Uh-huh.
And I said, okay, it's going to be, way back then it was like $45. Mm-hmm. They said, okay, come. So I drove down there, not the best part of town.
No, this is down in LA?
Yeah.
Okay.
San Fernando Valley.
Yeah.
And not the best part of town, like I said. And I, was sort of skeptical. And I went and got it open and I said, okay, $45. And I said, no, we're going to thump you. I go, what? I said, just give me my 45 and I'm on my way. And before you know it, man, they knocked me upside the head.
Like they hit you?
Oh, yeah, physically.
Like a couple of them?
Well, there's 3 of them.
Okay.
And the one guy hit me and I go, what the hell? And I, tried to get back in my truck and then I got in it and drove down the road and called the cops. But by then they were already gone,
Okay.
But yeah, you got to be careful out there.
Did that kind of change your perspective going to?
I'm not going to go to bad areas, but I've gone to another one where it was real bad, worse than this one during the day.
Okay, and I want to actually ask you about that real quick. When you talk about a bad area, it's just something in the community, it's a place.
It's not the best neighborhood.
Okay.
It's apartments have problems.
Oh, okay. So just kind of the community kind of knows this area is not the most safest.
But I'm hungry. I got to feed everybody.
Yeah, you need money.
Right.
So, you need money. So on this other one you're going to, I didn't mean to get you off.
And I said, well, I don't know, because you guys have a bunch of guys standing out front all the time. And she goes, don't worry, you'll be safe with me. Because I think she ran the place,
Okay.
She was like the mama bear of the whole complex.
Okay.
And so I pull up and she goes, you guys don't touch them, And I go, oh, great, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And she was locked out, so I got her in and she goes, I'll drive out with you in your van so nobody will mess with you. And, that one went well, but it could have gone real wrong real quick. But again, I need the money to feed the family.
Yeah, and I think that's a weird balance of when you're in the locksmithing type business and you do emergency work, kind of balancing that out.
Well, I tell my people, if you know it's a bad area, don't go. Just tell them forget it.
Okay, yeah.
Because there's no sense of you getting hurt. And then it's going to be on the company. You've got to pay, for whatever.
Yeah.
It's better to be safe and not hurt,
Yeah, so now kind of fast forwarding through today, we're thankful that, we live in a very kind of a more mellow area.
Absolutely.
Although as time goes on and the population grows.
Right. It can be.
It isn't always as.
Right. Nice as it used to.
Nice, right? But so I kind of want to, the danger out there is real.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? The danger is out there real. And so now with you, doing emergency work, your company, you have locksmiths who work for you, who are having to what's kind of company policy? I know you kind of alluded to it, but when it comes to at some point, someone has to make a decision, right? Someone has to make a decision to either I'm going to do this job or I'm not.
Well, a lot of the guys have sealed carry permits.
Okay.
And I told them you cannot carry it in the vehicle.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because it makes the company that much more vulnerable.
What about on the other end of that with them feeling more vulnerable?
I prefer them not doing the job.
Okay. Okay. So if they feel like they need to have protection on them,
right,
don't do that job.
Right.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because
is that
but you never know. It sounds great on the phone until you get there.
Until you get there, yeah. So, and we'll get there in a second. But I want to kind of talk through this. Is this something advice from attorneys or insurance?
Insurance.
Okay.
Because it just holds the company wide open if you have a weapon.
Okay.
And you have no control over it. They have control over it. Okay. But if they were working and they happen to pull it, instantly who are they going to come after if somebody got hurt?
The company.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay. So this is something that due to others' advice, you've kind of got to that.
Right.
But and as someone who has a concealed carry,
right.
I'm guessing you didn't come to that based on how you feel, which kind of has to be kind of an awkward type of a situation.
Right. I just felt I needed one, so I got one.
But not allowing that on the job is what I'm saying.
Right.
It's kind of it's not that you don't want people to be able to protect themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And so that's interesting. I mean, I want to ask you another question. It's kind of fun because I actually don't know some of that. So it's interesting to talk about it live with all of you. So if you were by yourself, okay, you didn't have any staff members and it was just you.
I'd be carrying.
You'd be carrying.
That's it.
Okay, so is what I'm saying is it kind of puts you in this awkward...
Because it's my decision, my company.
Yeah.
If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose because of my own stupidity, if that's what it takes.
Okay. Now, as far as so immediately when they're on the phone, your staff has the right to turn that call down.
Absolutely.
If they feel any weird part about it.
If people sound intoxicated or drug related, they seem odd or whatever, forget it. Turn it down because it just leaves the company open all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's kind of transition to we only can guess so much on the phone, right? We all have our feelers and get weird feelings or vibes or whatever it might be. But sometimes we're going to get those calls, we're going to go out there and then things are kind of weird maybe. You're not really liking it.
Right.
And the problem at that point though is the conflict that kind of goes with that. So maybe they pull up and you start talking to them and you realize this is not a good environment and this is something you don't want to be a part of.
Right.
And telling them that you're going to leave instead of doing the job does cause conflict.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it's a weird situation you find yourself in.
Right, and it's not good to lie, but I've lied many times to get out of it going, oh man, I didn't realize it was this one. I don't have those keys.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Okay.
Because, a lot of people just buy cars.
Yeah.
And they're living in them right now because things are really weird around the world.
Sure.
And, but they don't have a registration with their name on it. How can we make them keys?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Then of course they're upset.
Yeah, which I know nowadays that's something when someone needs someone to make keys, you're asking those type of questions to avoid those situations before you get there.
Right.
But I mean, that's just real life, right? We're talking real life.
Right. Or their friend went to jail and they got the keys, but the friend says, well, he said I could take it. Well, same difference.
Yeah, it's really interesting the amount of weird and awkward situations you can get yourself into.
Each person has to make their own decision on what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll be safe.
Yeah.
Because I hate to see people get hurt in the locksmith industry trying to do their job.
Yeah.
And, from what you were telling me, there's been people killed quite a bit.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. There's
And I hate to see one of my guys or gals hurt.
Yeah. I mean, it is bothersome.
Yeah, it is.
It's really bothersome.
All we're trying to do is make a living.
Yeah, and truthfully, I know for you and me as well, anyone who's definitely lost their life or been injured, and the families that have had to deal with loss is
right.
Terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, our heart goes out to anyone, all of those who have dealt with that for sure.
Right.
So it's a sobering, real issue, and I really just, thank you for coming on and kind of talking about it a little bit, because like it's kind of a very sensitive issue.
Oh, absolutely.
But one that I think that even though it's sensitive and it's really not one that any of us want to talk about.
Right.
It is something I think that we need to start having conversations about this and starting to really think through where we're at. And so what I want to kind of close with here is if someone, let's just say they're, they have their locksmithing business, it's just them doing it, like, do you have any advice for them on where to draw that line?
Well, I would definitely know how to defend myself. Mm-hmm. Remember, we got ice picks, we got hand files, stab them with them if you have to.
Yeah.
But everybody has to make their own decision.
Yeah.
I'm a big guy, so nobody ever usually screws with me. But when these guys were bigger, I was a sitting target. But you just got to be safe, and you have to make the decision, because all we're trying to do is make a living to pay for our family or our, keep our doors open.
Yeah.
And it's not always profitable, and stuff. But it's not worth your life. Or, okay, so you lost $100. It's not worth the problem of you getting hurt or injured.
Yeah.
And, every neighborhood has supposedly good areas and bad areas.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't?
No.
It doesn't?
It can happen in the good area too.
Yeah.
It all depends on the people you're dealing with.
It can. It can, and I've recently read a few of the stories of people who have been killed on the job.
Right.
And it's very disturbing,
right.
And I think
so I just didn't want to make it sound like the bad neighbor as well.
Yeah.
What's a bad neighborhood?
Yeah. So I, kind of what I'm hearing from you, and I would tend to agree with, like, if there's any sort of weirdness or risk factor, just don't do it.
Yeah, because we go up into the woods around here all the time at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you hope everything goes good.
Yeah.
But, there's been a lot of major deaths up here because of psychos.
Yeah.
So you just got to be safe.
Yeah, you do. You do. Well, everybody watching, I hope that you have found this helpful. I know several of you have asked me to bring this topic up. And so that's why I am. And I hope you found this helpful. But, truly, we really want to know in the comments, like, what your policy is, all of that, that you have found to help keep you safe, what you will do or won't. And I know at some point it's unavoidable, the risk.
Right. Because I always say learn how to defend yourself, period. I mean, I'm a big guy. They might get 2 or 3 punches into my one, but it's only going to take the one. Years ago, probably take a little bit more now.
Yeah.
But, you just got to learn.
There's just so much with it. And I think the hardest part for me is that there's actually not like one right answer.
Right.
Right? There's not just like one circumstance you have to watch out for.
And why did you take MMA training or whatever? Remember when you...
Oh, yeah, doing that, yeah.
Because you have a family of all girls.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just knowing how to defend yourself is,
absolutely.
Good,
right.
For sure. But I think as a whole, right, there's not one situation, there's not one circumstance in this business.
Right.
There's a lot. And so...
Absolutely, tons of them.
I think having the mentality when you're on the phone and taking the job is kind of evaluating that risk factor.
And then once you get there, be aware also.
Be aware, yeah.
As I always say to everybody who works for me, my own family, know your surroundings when you get someplace. look around, see where people are or things are, so you know what's going on, so you can't be surprised.
Yeah, and I guess so the one thing that popped in my head I want to end with here, I guess, is like, have any of your staff over the years, have they found themselves in dangerous situations?
Yes.
They have.
Yep.
And they were able to get out.
They were able to get out of it.
Okay.
You know, but.
And then they talked to you about it, you kind of talked through it.
Yeah, and I said, well, just don't do them then. You know, if it sounds fishy, don't do it. You know, and if you show up and it gets weirder, just say, see ya, drive off. Don't even get out of the van, because it's easy just to drive off.
Yeah. It's just weird though, because you start getting those confrontational situations.
Oh yeah.
You know,
people call and complain, and well, they didn't feel safe, so that's the reason.
Yeah. Because
we have a choice being in our business to do or not do. That's up to each individual if they're gonna do the job or not.
Yeah.
I always say, if it sounds fishy, turn it down. I don't need the money that bad.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, and the problem is sometimes you do need the money.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a hard.
Well, that's the reason I went and did those others.
That's why you did those. Yeah. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, hey, you know, like I was saying, I would love to know your thoughts below, especially on, you know, I think the way that we can kind of talk through this together as a community is just by talking about in a constructive manner how we all deal with these situations, and then together hopefully we can start building a base. And also, if you have a very strong opinion about this and have some good tips or tricks or some training that you've received, go to contact us. I'd love to bring you on and talk about it and continue the conversation. But I look forward to reading your comments. Dad, thanks for
no problem.
coming on. You know, I know I appreciate you coming on one like this, because it's an issue that I'm sure some people won't like your stance.
Oh, absolutely.
But
that's what makes us all individuals.
Yeah, makes us all individuals. But I appreciate you being willing to talk about it and what you do, and at least we can have a conversation, a productive conversation. So, thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing your comments, and we'll see you next time.
Have a good day.